Welcome to the Cory Experiences Life podcast. I am here today with my friend, Mr. Joe Buscema, who's in town because he's got a couple acts playing the Blues Fest, the Ottawa Blues Fest, which is a big festival that happens here. Just to put into perspective, I think Joe's watching the Killers tonight. So, big festival. Joe's in town here in Ottawa, and we thought it would be really interesting to have a podcast because when Joe and I talk, we have these deep conversations. They're very inspiring. They're very, I think there's a lot to take away from it. So I thought, why not document one? And maybe someone out there listening can take something from it. So Joe, who are you? Who are you today?
Today, I am an artist manager, and I have been consistently since the year 2014. And besides that being my career, who I am as a person is... I like to say I'm, someone who appreciates art and appreciates getting the most out of life's experiences.
Hell yeah. And I would agree with that. So who is currently on your roster? Just to kind of give people out there that don't know who you are some insight into who you're working with.
Yeah, of course. So I do have a few acts on development, but on my active day-to-day roster, in alphabetical order would be Bearings, Cherry Pools, The Dangerous Summer, Locket, Ryan Woods, and then, like I said, I have a few things on development as well. One being this band from Ottawa that played Blues Fest yesterday. That's called Children of Indigo, and I am super excited about them. So that's pretty much a little brief on my current roster.
Why is Locket your favorite band on your roster? I think you were telling me that off camera or something. No, I'm just playing. So as Joe mentioned, I play guitar in the band Locket, and I've known Joe since 2016. He's been the manager of our band for the last little while, and he's a guy that makes things happen. He's an artist first kind of guy. He is there on our team, and he helps us with anything and everything that we need, gives us guidance, and we know that, that we trust Joe. And Joe we trust, as well as working with Joe. We have Michelle, who also helps out on the managerial front, and I think the combination of the two, I couldn't ask for a better team, and it's really, really cool. So
I couldn't ask for an artist to feel a different way, so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's all good vibes. What is, as a manager, I think everyone has an idea of what an artist manager is, whether it's, any industry within entertainment, music, TV, whatever. What is like your day-to-day, right? You have multiple people on your roster. Mm-hmm. How do you conduct your day-to-day life? What's an average day in Mr. Joe Buscema's life?
I wake up in the morning, usually between anywhere from, depends if I went to bed late the night before, which is usually because I was at a show or out late in, regards to the music business. It's not really likely that I'm like just out late partying or some bullshit like that. But I'd say between like 7 and 9 in the morning, I'll wake up and I'm active by at least 9 or 10 in the morning as an artist manager. You've probably seen me in the group chat like pretty early in the day. So upon waking up, the first thing I'll do is I'll look at my phone. And before I get out of bed and brush my teeth and take a shower, people around me, my family says you should take care of yourself before you start. And I'm just like, but that literally is not an option that is inside of my brain.
Dedicated to the craft.
Well, no, it's just I'm really excited about what's happening. And I wake up and I know that there's notifications on my phone from, artists I represent mainly. And so I typically deal with that as soon as I wake up.
Yeah.
I look at my phone and I'm like, okay, who texted me? And it's like, okay, this person from this band, this person from this band, this person from this label, this other manager, this booking agent. But a lot of the times it's text from artists I manage. And, it's questions or cool ideas that they've had through the wee hours of the morning. Cause I think that's where artistic, creative,
totally
just
man.
Lives the most, I guess,
Artist hours.
artist hours, the real artist hours. So that's why I'm excited, because I wake up and it's like, yo, that's fucking sick. Or like, you had that idea, or like you wrote that song and you sent it to me. So it's like, first thing I do is I wake up, I look at my phone.
And then 16 hours go by. And then you go to bed and you repeat.
You literally that though. Like, so, but yes, like that's like the first thing I do. I look at my phone. I'm like, cool. All this cool shit happened while I was sleeping for 6 to 8 hours. And then basically I'll get ready, and then I'll actually become a person. And then, that's when I'll kind of sit down and I look at my to-do list. And, for every artist, it's obviously different.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is their own unique artist on my roster. I don't think that one of them is really necessarily very similar to the other. I think that they more so just complement each other super well. And everyone's at a different point of their career.
Definitely.
So for one artist, it might be on my to-do list that I have to wake up and call the booking agent and discuss the headline tour. Or it might be for another artist, like, I need to wake up and call the artist and talk about how we're going to plan our DIY tour to attract a booking agent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like everyone's always got different tasks. Or maybe like if it's something with cherry pools, I'm going to go and physically be hands-on in a situation.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if it's an artist that lives close by to me, like we're going to get together and work on something together. Like, everyone I work with, it's a completely different sense of work and a workflow.
Yeah. And from what I've seen, because I remember we have talked about this, because I'm just curious as to how you manage it. Because like you said, every artist requires something different, and every artist is in a different position in their career, and just day to day. Like, you'll have an artist that's about to go on tour. You'll have an artist that's about to go in the studio. You'll have an artist that's working with a songwriter. You have all these things happening. And that given day, one artist might need more attention, or something might take more time.
Absolutely.
Which is cool. And what I think that you do well is, you showed me this, like, in your notes app on your phone. You have every artist that you work with, and basically the next step, the vision and the next step. So it seems to be laid out very organized. And in my experience working with you, it doesn't seem like anything falls through the cracks. Like, it seems like everything's accounted for. And I know if I was in your position, I would have a tough time managing all that stuff. I'm really like good at focusing on one thing at a time. So I admire that about your, just the way you conduct what it is that you do.
Thank you. I honestly think it's like the only thing that's actually important to me. You know what I mean? Like,
I believe that wholeheartedly. Like, I believe that everything you say. Yeah.
Thank you. Like, but like, if I am going to be home for a day or two,
yeah, like,
getting the tasks at hand done is more important than like taking a shower.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Your
like,
priorities are...
like literally, like, my only priority is like, I treat myself like shit. And that's like something I'm honestly trying to work on, is like,
it's important. Yes.
Giving myself time for self-care, because I do want to touch on that a little bit and say that, like, you don't want to overdo yourself, because then that's how things slip through the cracks. So something I like to do, today's a Sunday, so it's a little bit different because I'm trying to be a little more productive today. But typically Sundays, I try to shut down.
Take a minute away from the phone.
Sundays are my holy day. I like to just chill out. I'll, you know, in summertime, I like to be with nature. I like to go by the water, hang out with a friend, just kind of like recharge, you know? But, you know, like, if it's like a fucking Wednesday or something, or like, you know, middle of the work week, or top of the work week, end of the work week, it's like, I will tend to put my personal needs aside from like what I need to get done. And not that I don't have time. It's not like there aren't enough hours in a day, but it's just like, once you start going on one thing and then another thing comes up and you're rolling and you're in a groove and you don't want to stop. And it's like, to me, the only thing I care about is the excitement within what I'm working on. And that is more important than like eating a good meal, taking care of myself. You know, I've needed to buy a new pillow now for 2 weeks and like still haven't done that. And like, you know, my fucking neck hurts, but like, you know?
Yeah, I can relate to that. And I definitely, and I'm like you said, you're working on it, and you understand that it's important to work on because, as much as we're both driven individuals that have, by certain standards, like insane goals and dreams.
Yes.
It's not sustainable without taking care of yourself. And like you said, if you do push yourself too hard and you are not balanced, then yeah, that's when things start falling apart, things start falling through the cracks. And yeah, that's not good. So I'm glad that you are definitely taking steps to make your life balanced and more manageable, because I know in my experience, I definitely had a couple years where I was burning the candle on both ends, and it didn't just make my work suffer, it made relationships suffer, my health a little bit suffer, and I feel like you have to go close to the edge. You got to find where the line is.
Yes.
And then you're able to dial it back. And
yeah.
It comes from being 100% committed and driven and dedicated to doing something. So cool. I'm glad that you do take care of yourself, because that's important.
I'm starting to.
How do you find the screen time thing? I know for me that if I'm spending, especially because you're working in the entertainment industry, a lot of it is like social media based, right? Those are your avenues to connect with people. Do you find the screen time, if you're pulling, let's say 8 hours, 10 hours of screen time between devices a day, do you find that affects your mental health at all? How does it feel from a manager's perspective? Because I know as an artist, it's easy to compare yourselves. You look at numbers, you see what other people are doing, and you're like, "Oh, am I doing enough?" You have those thoughts.
It's those thoughts are definitely still present as an artist manager.
Yeah,
not in a competitive way, but more in a like inspiring way, because like you see your peers are doing cool shit, and it's like, fuck, like that's something cool. Like now it's inspiring me to think of something cool to do, or like, oh shit, like a friend of mine recently sent me a graphic of something that he's announcing for a band he manages, and it was completely mind-blowing. And I was like, dude, that's so fucking cool. I got to be doing more now.
Cool. So you see it as motivation.
Yeah, I see it as motivation. And then, I also feel like the tax on it, though, is that I'm not really present anywhere I go.
100%. 100%.
Like, I'll take that back. I'm not really present anywhere I go in like a casual environment. If it's like obviously business, again, that's the only thing I care about. But like, I'll be out with friends and like it's someone's birthday, or like, it's family members' birthday, or like how many things I missed as a kid growing up, or like a young adult growing up, like, to like important family. I'll just say this. I missed my sister's graduation from the University of Toronto to work will call for a Strike Anywhere and Flatliner show in Toronto.
Yeah.
In 2007 or something like that. And, it's like, do I regret it? From my business perspective? Absolutely fucking not. From my family perspective, it's like, I wish I could have been there.
Yeah.
And do I think that, me being like, a month out, hey, boss of mine, like, I'm not going to be able to work that show. You'll have no problem finding someone else to, pick up that shift. Only because it's my sister's graduation from the University of Toronto, which was a big thing. And to be honest, I wish I could have been there.
Yeah.
It's
that kind of ties to the like trying to find the line, or like getting close to the edge to like find the line kind of thing. Because I know, again, personally, just to relate to it, like I've worked on all of my birthdays, like for the last like 5 years. I take Christmas off, but for the most part, if I don't have anyone there to stop me, I'm waking up and like going to my computer and working on.
Yeah, I've seen this.
Like the handful of things. Yeah, like I don't even have to get dressed most days. Anyways, just to kind of wrap that up, or just kind of keep this conversation moving forward.
Yes.
Just to get a little bit of a background on you, because I think you have an interesting story coming up. You obviously started in the alternative music industry, whether you knew it or not, very early on, gaining experience on multiple fronts, tour managing, losing your job as a manager at 18, playing in bands. So can you talk to me about the maybe the Abandon All Ships days and the Live the Story days. Maybe just tell me, because I think that's valuable stuff. I think that's something that everyone can relate to.
No, for sure.
Yeah, everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah, no, of course. And honest to God, like, the Abandon All Ships thing was so weird. And it kind of, so first thing, like, I've been playing music since I was like literally a child. I got my first guitar at age 6, and then
Maple Street.
Oh, no. Please don't do it. Please don't do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Nobody can find my first punk band, please.
Yeah.
So, it's honestly not even like that bad, but it's just like my first punk band. You can kind of imagine how that sounds.
With that all being said, you started that at 11.
Yes.
I don't think you should feel bad about anything. I think you should feel very proud. Even if everything, I haven't heard it, but even if everything is absolutely terrible, that's what I mean when I say you started early on. Whether you knew it or not, at the age of 11, you were playing in a band. Not a lot of people can say that.
Like, it gave me the skill of having to deal with, like, my friends that like didn't want to get anything done, and it's like knowing that I can work their brains to like get them to do basic shit like hey, we're 11 years old, like I would literally, so we're 11 and I had never been a leader in my life or someone to like proactively push something.
Dude, you hadn't even hit puberty yet.
I hadn't even hit fucking puberty yet. But like, my first experience at that was scheduling my first band practice. I remember it clearly.
Yeah.
I was in my third home, our kitchen, and I was like sitting on the counter, and I'm like, is no one else gonna schedule a practice? Like, do I have to do it? Like, I really want to play music with my friends, so I guess I have to do this in order to play music with my friends now.
Yeah.
So I literally would call the first guy like, hey, are you available to practice on, like my parents said, they're going to go do groceries for an hour or two so we can practice on this day to this time. He's like, yeah. And then the next guy says no. And then, I got to go back to that guy. And then, I'm like, just to set up a practice. And then I was so fulfilled the day we practiced. I'm like, all right, cool. We're going to like record our practice now on a cassette tape. And then, so that was like my first swing at like, okay, now I guess I'm like that guy in the band, which then led me into at the age of 17, I was punk rocker. I had a 12-inch mohawk. Okay. And anything that wasn't punk or remotely like absolute punk rock, like, nothing remotely mainstream at all was even allowed to enter my world, or nothing with like screaming or metal or breakdowns. And I was in my friend's basement, who later ended up playing in Abandon All Ships, my friend at the time. And then basically he was like going through bands' MySpace profiles and was like, yo, fuck this band, like this is what they're doing, like they're a bunch of losers, like they don't fucking know what's going on, and then blah blah blah, and then would like play samples from their MySpace page. Then he landed on Abandon All Ships and goes, this band is for sure paying for all their hits on their MySpace, and like, they don't even care about their band, and blah blah blah. And then like I'm like, oh, this guy's just a fucking asshole, he's going off on a tangent. And then he played the first like 10 seconds of that song that ended up being calling Take One Last Breath. But
what was it? What was the word? It was like
pedestrian is another word for speed bumps.
Yeah, I remember that.
So he played that, and as soon as it like hit, I was like, this thing just like exploded in my head, and I was like, yo, this band's gonna be fucking huge.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this is some serious shit. Like, I had never felt that way about music that was like within reach, I guess you can say. Cause like, it was the same feeling that I would get like the first time my dad showed me CCR, and I was like, rock music, like cool, like that excited electric feeling that I'm probably displaying to you right now. Like just running through my body, like, holy fuck, like this is really good and like really unique. And I thought it was just so fresh, and like this like light went on in my head, like, go here, like just. And I remember talking to him being like, you're a fucking idiot, bro. Like, this band's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Like, this band's great. And he had mentioned to me that at the time they had a hard time, like, getting their shit together. And I was like, yo, that's what I'm good at. And I do that with my band. And I have been doing that with my band since age 11. So at this point, I had 6 years experience of scheduling band practices and trying to just get shows and, you know, get press and like push things forward and, you know, the whole 9 yards. I was like, this like thing, like, what if I apply my business of the music to another band? I'm like, does that make me a record label? Does that make me a manager? Like, what am I? How am I going to do this? And then I started managing them.
And did you have any idea what a band manager's role was at that time? Or did you just kind of like take it in stride and like, I'm going to figure this out as I do it?
Honestly, I had no fucking idea.
Cool. I like that. I
had absolutely no clue other than I want to help this band. And I think that almost like I want to help this band. And if I don't do it, I don't know if anybody will.
Okay.
Because of like, excuse me, where they were at. Like they hadn't practiced in 10 months. They were turning into Genos that only cared about their cars.
Yeah.
Like, Ange will tell you this. Like, we're still best friends today. So it's like...
Actually, yeah, you introduced him to me once.
Yeah, for sure.
At a show, yeah.
Yeah, at...
it was...
I know what show you're talking about.
It's Exalt.
And Old Wounds.
And Old Wounds, yeah.
Yeah, and Safe to Say.
Yeah.
So, basically, you know, like, they didn't have their shit together at all. So I was like, maybe I can be that guy for them. And so then, you know, we started working together, and then like shit actually started happening. Universal Music Canada started reaching out.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, you know, you might recognize them from some artists such as Shawn Mendes.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah, so like they didn't even know what that meant. And I was like, anywhere you find major Canadian artists, you will find a band in all ships, is how I kind of explained it to them. And I didn't even know what the fuck a record label did. I didn't know how record label deals looked. I didn't know how deals were executed. I didn't know how to turn interest into an offer. But basically, you know, and then like they started asking me questions that I didn't know how to answer. And there was a mutual part there. I was like, yo, that's cool. Like, you guys are going to get new management, and that's fine. I just want to be your friends, because this doesn't change the way I still feel about you.
Just to clarify that. So was it Universal that told the band, hey, we think it would be best? No. Or they talked to you, or what was it? They
started asking me questions, and then there was the honest to God truth, and this is pretty fucked up, but the honest to God truth of the matter was that our friend Peter Guvis, who has now passed away, sadly.
Oh no.
He was managing another band that was, you know, relevant in that music scene, and I kind of got poached because he had a little more knowledge than me, and he somewhat poached me. It was my first time, like, yo, I got fucking burned here, but like, I get it at the same time. Like, I kind of knew, like, I was obviously upset at him at that time.
Totally.
And for anyone that's curious, I felt at least better about it. Before he had passed, we had patched things up. And that was like, when he passed, like, my mind was just like, yo, try to remove any hateful feelings from your heart.
Yeah.
You know, and like really open up my mind in that regard. But he had more knowledge than me. He was older than me, and he had a better business sense.
And would you say that he would be doing the band a better job, or be doing more for the band at that time?
Honestly, yes, I do.
So you'd agree that that's probably, like, in hindsight, that was the best move.
It kind of needed to happen.
Yeah.
I had a 12-inch fucking mohawk. Like, I had no idea, bro. I was literally like this angry punk kid, but like, you know, I was just like, yo, I don't really like what that guy did. Like, fuck him right now. But
Which is totally natural to feel, especially
yeah, you know, I was a upset 17-year-old kid with all this testosterone running through me, and it's like,
it's totally natural.
You know, but you know, again, like, I have a lot of respect for Peter Guvis, and not just because he died. Like, I honestly think if he was here today, he would be a massive artist manager. I 100% believe that. And you know, I was obviously really upset at the moment, but I was like, I still want to be friends with you guys, the band.
Yeah. And
then unfortunately, he didn't manage them for too much longer than I did. It was just like a few months, that sort of thing. And then Mark Spikalik came in and started managing the band, who also signed them to Underground Operations and Universal. So before that all happened, though, I was now 19, a couple years had passed. And I was like, yo, maybe I can't be your like manager, but maybe bands bring people on the road that like manage the band on the tour.
Like a tour manager.
Like do bands have tour managers or something? Like maybe I can like take care of your shit just on tour. And my God, did we connect in such a powerful way when that happened. And I realized I had a knack for being on tour. I had at that point always wanted to go on tour. So my first tour was with Abandon All Ships right before disband and getting signed and all that bullshit. Basically I got to become a tour manager, learned a lot. And then what happened was they had asked me to stay on as their full-time tour manager. Like, yo, we're going to be going to the UK. We're going to be going to Europe. We hired Colin Lewis as our booking agent, who was like, at the time, he's now in LA, I think, working for Live Nation, but was like the biggest booking agent in Canada. Like, just mind-blowing shit was happening for Abandon All Ships.
You just to interject, I think you said, was it that tour? Pre-disband, pre all that stuff, just from their MySpace hype, they filled a venue in Ottawa here that's 250 cap.
I think it's 300 cap, and yeah, we sold it out.
That's different time, but so, that's insane.
Do you mind if I tell a really funny story about that? Okay, I'm sorry we're going off track here, but
don't apologize.
So their guarantee at that show was $200
for a 300 person sold out show. That is criminal.
Because
headline
because they had no booking agent, they had no management, they had no label, they had no team. It was literally their bass player at the time. Martin was still on drums.
Okay, yeah.
And their bass player at the time was their like booking agent guy. Like, he booked the tour. He didn't, you know, none of us knew what the fuck we were really doing. Like, the world was still exciting and new to us. So he was like, $200? Pfft, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
So then the night of the show, I was like, running the numbers in my head, I'm like, yo, this promoter made a fucking killing, bro. Like, you know, and that was like my first time being a tour manager. So I went to settle up and I started asking him questions. I'm like, yo, dude, how much was the venue to book?
Yeah.
And he's like, $500. I'm like, well, is it 300 or 500? Then he's like, 350. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, how much money did you put into promotion? You know, I started like breaking these things down. And like, I didn't even know that that's what like a tour manager is supposed to do at settlement. It's to be like, you know, to go over the show's expenses and make sure it lines up with what the offer was and all that. So I literally like, that was like my first glance into that. And then it ended with me being like, you made way too much fucking money tonight. Yeah. And from a business to business dealing, like, that's not fair. This band filled that fucking venue.
They're the reason why that guy, like it, yeah.
So, yeah, and I'm like, by my calculations, you made like almost $2,000 and the band made $200. I'm like, that is absolutely not right. I'm like, I think, and even this was still a steal for him, but I was like, I think you should buy this Abandon All Ships CD from me for another $200.
Yeah.
And he fucking did.
Right on. And that is one big reason why I respect the way you do things, because you do what's fair, but you're also not afraid of like, dude, sticking up for what you think is right.
Everybody in the world has a fucking different definition of what fair is.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that my definition is like really fucking fair in comparison to what I've experienced
as being fair.
Other people's perspective of what fair is. dude, you made so much money. He literally asked me for a free CD. I was like, give me another $200. I'll give you the fucking CD.
Okay, so just going down this, I've played shows where we've we had a guarantee. We knew what we were making going into it, but the show did better than expected, and the promoter like compensated us.
Yeah, and that's how it like should be. Like when I was a promoter, I would try to give bands more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I had booked Baptized in Blood, and I had told people like, you know, like just some industry friends. I booked them in Maple, Ontario, which is like a 45-minute north suburb of Toronto. And I had booked them there. Like there had never been a show really in Maple. Like there had been a few, but like nothing really like this is a show that's happening in Maple. Like the way shows happen in Toronto, it's happening in the suburbs now. So it was like Abandon All Ships and Baptized in Blood. I overpaid all the bands. They asked for, you know, a 12 case of beer. I got them a 28 case of beer. Like, I don't know, just like treat people the way you want to be treated, but also like
it's also creating
at the same time, like creating those like what your reputation is. Cause like, I'll tell you right now, I have a really good idea of what I think fair is. And I'm at least still here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not fucking crazy successful. I wouldn't even like to say that I am successful, but I would say that a decade later, I'm still here. And the promoter that, you know, didn't even want to give us an extra $200 because we sold out his show is not here. He's not in the music business at all anymore. And it's like, if you want to be here, you have to do what's right for the artist in whatever your position is, you know? Like,
that's true. I mean,
I don't know how that's a crazy concept for people to fucking understand.
Reputation is everything.
Yeah.
So just to kind of jump back into that story there. So
yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. That's what these long form podcasts are about. It's
cool.
like just ride the wave of the conversation. So they do the tour. Disband happens.
Yes.
How and then they sign with Underground Operations.
Oh yeah. Cool. So they go on disband. They get signed. Everything starts happening. They're like, we want you to stay on as our full-time TM. And, you know, like, we're going to get to do all these cool things together. Like, and basically I was living at home at the time and my parents were like, and I was really young. I was 19. They're like, if you want to tour manage this band and drop out of school, then you have to leave the house. So I was like, yo guys, like, I really want to do this, but like that's going to require me to like move away from home. So like I gave them a number and I was like, I would need to make this much a week in order to move out. And that wasn't really doable for them, which I knew it wasn't going to be. Yeah. And I told them that like, guys, like, unfortunately, this is legit the only fucking way I can make this work. Like I'm willing to leave my house, but like, it's probably not going to work, but like in order for me to pay rent and pay my own groceries and live, I'm going to need like, and it wasn't even a large amount.
Yeah. It was enough to get by probably.
It was like probably not even enough to get by.
Yeah.
I would have probably had to do a lot of other things for money too. But the thing is they were still at the like very small guarantee place. Like maybe on some headline shit, they would get paid decently well. But for the most part, it was like, come be support on this $100 guaranteed tour in the States.
Yeah.
You know, like the 1 of 5 band getting paid $100. Like that's where they were when any band starts to get signed. It's like people see, oh, record label. At that point, they were on television in Canada. And like,
I saw them on television when I was a little kid. Yeah.
You know, and like fucking, so it was just like, people think that there's like more money in a band's business at that point, but like there really is not.
Yeah.
So we weren't able to make it work. I stayed in school. I was really depressed. I was in college. And then I started a band called Live the Story, which was basically an output of anxiety and depression in emotional pop punk form with me and my friends.
Yeah.
And we tried really hard and it was going really good. Basically at the height of our career, we recorded an EP with Tom Denny in Florida, who was in A Day to Remember. And we were really proud of that EP. We went on tour with Abandon All Ships, who were so sick enough to like,
hook it up,
like bring my band on tour. And I didn't even like ask them. I told them like, yo, I play in a band that like you might be able to support, but like I never expect that from you.
Yeah.
Because they would tell me stories about like people around them that would. And I'm like, yo, that's fucking whack. Like, like I would never ask that of you guys. And they were like, yo, we're going to bring you guys on our like Canadian tour. And it was really dope. And then we did a Toronto headline show at Hard Luck and sold 250 tickets in like a 300-ish cap room.
Which is a big deal.
Which is a big deal. Like if you start doing that in your hometown, then like
that's called making a splash.
Like things start to happen. And we had interest from Universal Music Canada. And
I've heard of them.
Yeah, and then like a lot of this shit started to come like full circle, but now for my band. And I'm like, this is so fucking cool. And our lead singer quit the band. And then we somehow still found a way to bounce back from all of that. And then still had interest. And then we got offered a 4-month-long high school tour. So I was like, we should hire management. And there was this producer who Dave and I looked up to. Dave is my like childhood best friend who I had played in like almost every single band with from age 11 to 23.
Okay.
And this guy had produced and managed bands that we had looked up to. So we were like, yo, we want to do our next EP with him. And he actually had like reached out to us and it was like, yo, like this all feels really fucking cool. And during the process of recording, we asked him to manage us. And then we went on this high school tour. And basically it took him 4 months to get mixes done for a band that he managed as well. And through that time, we were on a high school tour, which like I would never advise any fucking band to do that tour.
Yes. I don't care. Throw shade.
Yeah, like that company is a fucking scam, bro. Yeah. Like
I agree wholeheartedly.
Like not just to us as a band, but like what they were doing to like that shit was fucked up.
You basically do a 4-month tour and it's for free.
You do it for free, but there were people that were on the tour that like worked for the organization that were paying thousands of dollars to be there. And they were like shorting us all on our food allowances and shit. They're like, yeah, like you're going to be fed 3 meals a day in these price brackets. Like they actually like identify like your dinner will be a $12 dinner. Your lunch will be a $9 lunch. Your breakfast will be a $7 breakfast. Cool. That's like enough for a touring musician by miles, like, like, yeah, we can make that work. And then like one day a school gave us a bag of popcorn and they were like, yo, fucking like
share it.
You guys are full now, right? Like you ate popcorn and we're like, yo, are you actually fucking serious? And like, they were like, it was very apparent to us as like kids in our young 20s that like this company was a scam company. And we were like contractually trapped on this 4-month-long tour. And basically during this time, our manager, who's our producer, cannot fulfill the label interest to an offer because the label's been asking for these new songs and we can't show them. During this 4-month time, it's now December, A&R left the company, did not renew his contract.
The A&R for, it was Universal?
Yes.
The A&R for Universal that had interest in your band, that was just waiting on mixes.
Yes.
Left the band by the time the mixes were finished.
Yeah, he left the company.
He left the company. So you're one connection. You're one connection, and the one guy that was rooting for you that worked for the company is no longer there. So you basically have nothing. Yeah,
and then he's like, oh, I shopped you out to like, this label and this label and this label. And like, no one's really saying anything. So like, I think we should put the record out on my record label. And I was like, okay, so you're our producer, our manager, our record label. A 3-way conflict of interest. Fucking sick. So,
yeah.
So
that's messed up.
Yeah. And like, young, naive me thought, well, like if I have something to say about it, I can still make this whole thing work. So I got us a tour that was booked by a major booking agency with another up and coming band that was bigger than us, had a lot going on. And I was like, okay, at least if we can release the record on this tour, then our first week numbers will be good. And then we can get on some other tours, you know? And then basically what ended up happening was he was like, oh, I can't even make that happen for you. I handed in shit late again, and your record is going to be coming out a week after your tour. And I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. So 2 months after our record came out, we decided we're going to break up. I cried, and I got the band together to go to our manager's office and basically told him, like, yo, dude, like, we're breaking up. And he was like, oh, I thought you guys were going to fire me. Like, that's good news. I'm like, no, it's worse. Like, we're breaking up.
Yeah. And
like, I'm fucking crushed right now.
The guy it clearly showed how much he cared.
Well, honestly, I think he's a good person as a person. And I really do my best to remove how people do business from how they are as people.
Okay.
So I really like this person as a person. And we had a lot of great moments together as a person. But it was just a weird working relationship. So basically, the rest of my band members had left, and he pulled me behind and was like, yo, like, let's go get coffee. And was like, so what's next, Joe? I'm like, well, my band broke up like 3-4 hours ago. Like, I don't really know what's next. Like, I'm 23 and I've been working these like property maintenance overnight jobs, like power washing fucking sidewalks.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, and, you know, to fund my band and to support my band, and now that's gone. So like, I'm, you know, I've never really had options like this ever. And, he was like, you should manage with me, Joe. And I was like, I literally kind of like laughed a little bit. I'm like, pfft. And he's just like, what? And I'm like, oh, nothing. Like, you know, but then, I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do, dude. Like, I don't know. And I knew I was going to be a manager.
Yeah.
I think I even said that, like, yeah, I'll probably like just get back into management. And, I knew I was going to do that, but like definitely not with him.
Yeah.
It's like, what are the perks? I can work out of an office. What are the cons? You know, and then it's just like history repeat itself for artists I'm going to manage. I'm like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
I need to be the manager that I feel we should have had through this entire fucking experience.
Totally. And
like, from lead singer leaving, I wish we had a fucking manager to be like, we're going to work this out.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can't lose that aspect of your band, even though things feel so goddamn impossible. I wish we had a manager there. I wish we had a manager to manage our producer to get our mixes to our potential record label on time, and to make sure that we can release our record on a tour with press surrounding it and a music video at least to go with it. And we had none of that, you know? So I was like, I got to be that fucking person now. And then that was like the end-ish, I think, of 2013. And then I started 2014, you know, I started building my management roster, and here I am today. I haven't stopped, and that motivation is still real.
So to keep it going, what is your, if you could define your managerial perspective or your outlook, and maybe in a way that it differs, like, what is it that you are trying to accomplish, and how do you go about doing what you do?
So what I want to accomplish is my shared vision with the artist to be a reality. So to be able to discover talent at such a young point, and to help that artist grow into their own and discover the universe that is inside of them, and how we can bring it out for their audience to live inside of that universe with that band. Yeah. And, you know, to be like, hey, here is point A, you know, like, here's a start of your trip.
Yeah, here's where you are now.
Yeah, and it's kind of like if you were to GPS a long drive.
Yeah.
You know? Here's where you are. Yeah. here's where you're going to be.
You got to take a plane and a boat, but we're going to get there.
Yeah, it's like, and then now here's all the like shit that we're going to have to do to get here.
There's going to be a flat tire probably somewhere, but yeah.
And by no means have I even done that with any artist I manage yet, in the regard of like, no one's at their finish line, but also part of the finish line is that there is no fucking finish line.
Yeah, you always want to be moving the finish line too.
Yeah,
you
it's like, you know, right now for a band like Locket, the finish line would be, how can we sell 2,500 tickets a night?
Yeah.
And sustain that to a point where bands like, you know, our pioneers of the genre that are still doing it today. Mm-hmm. Bands like Bad Religion and, you know, like their DIY ethics and how they became a lifelong band that can still sell, you know, 2,000 to 5,000 tickets everywhere they go.
Yeah.
And are still a big headline name. You know, so like, it's like, how can we get there? But then once we get there, it's going to be, all right, now what's the next step? And for every band, it's different. You know, it's like not about, oh, I want to get an artist on a magazine cover because it's going to be a paycheck to me.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I get the artist on the magazine cover? And it just so happens that in doing that, I'm going to get paid. Yeah. How can I get the artist to a point where we can sell these rooms so we can like live off of that energy? Like, yo, we started something together and we fucking did it. And like, this journey has been absolutely insane with like the most crazy ups and downs. And I've been able to like experience that with like little small milestones and plateaus and whatnot. And I think that with every artist I work with, it's like, we're definitely on our track. We're like, we have set in our location on our GPS. Yeah. And we're driving, and soon we're going to have to get on a plane and then a boat and then hitchhike along the way. And, you know?
No, it's true. And I got to say that, from the artists I've seen you work with, even well before we were working together, you seem to be a guy that knows how to make things happen. And I think you understand that no two situations, like, how do I word this? What works for one band isn't going to work for every band on your roster. There might be some similarities in some ways, but it's like you make things happen. And I think that's remarkable because you're not just doing the same thing again. You have to kind of reinvent yourself and figure out, okay, this is the goal. How do we get there? This didn't work. This didn't work. It's like there's a fence in the way. Do we go under it? Do we go around it? Do we go over it? Like, okay, one didn't work. Let's figure it out.
You know, like the last time I hit this fence with the last band, we had to go above the fence. But maybe now with this band, we hit the fence. Like, we got to go underneath. Like, it's always different. And it's because, like, my philosophy with management is that there are unique individuals in each entity that I manage. Mm-hmm. So in Locket, there are 4 people that
4.5. We got Logan in there too. Okay, that's
5.
That's just for the band. Yeah, we got
full 5 because I think Logan is 100% a member.
He's a spiritual member.
I fucking love Logan so much.
Yeah, we all do.
What a goddamn beautiful soul.
Yeah.
But you know, the performing members of Locket, there are 4 of you, and you know what? No, let's fucking include Logan on this too. There's 5 of you.
Yeah.
And you guys all are unique individuals that experience life way differently than me, way differently than anyone else in your band, and way differently than anyone else that I manage as well. And that's something I think about, is that like you each have a livelihood at hand. And maybe right now the band is or isn't your main source of income, but it's like how I manage this is not just managing a fucking logo or an entity. It's like there are individual human beings that play in these bands that like all do real life people things that experience life differently. So that's like a pressure that I swallow like with no problem in the regard of like, you know what, that's cool. And I keep that in mind. And that's how I go about my business. And I think that the right thing to do is always the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And basically it's like, I have to do the right thing for all of these people that are in these bands. And that's going to be different from person to person in the band, from artist to artist on my roster. And it just requires like a sense of creating like a individuality plan for each artist I represent that is like cater to who they actually are. And again, all kind of ties back to like figuring out what universe is inside here and bringing it here. So then that way, you know, you can live in this world with the people that listen to your music as well.
Yeah. And
if that makes any fucking sense at all, I don't know.
No, it's good. I told you yesterday that I think you always use this term artist, and then you seem to put artists on like this pedestal of. I think you just have a great appreciation for people that are able to create, and I think you understand that a creative individual, their life and their outlook and everything is completely different than a normal person that
different.
Has like a normal, let's say 9-to-5 lifestyle. Like they have this unrelentless desire to always be doing something. They don't see the world as a place that they normally fit in. There's these. And yeah, and that's kind of what drives them to do it. And I think that you understand that. And I think you yourself are an artist in what you do, which I think is really cool. Now,
that is a huge compliment. Thank you.
To change gears a little bit, but it's still on the same track. I think you and I can agree that the music industry is not, how do I say this, is not in Canada, or there's a ceiling on the Canadian music industry. So recently you spent just over around a year living in LA,
yes,
fucking on the ground, getting shit done there. And I mean, adding massive benefit or adding massive value to what you do for your bands, because you're in Los Angeles. That is the hub of entertainment.
Yeah.
And you were there on the ground talking, building relationships, meeting people, and making shit happen. Talk to me a little bit about your motivation to go there. And just kind of the whole experience and how you've grown.
I have always wanted to be there, from being a kid watching like TV shows that take place in California to movies that take place in California to realizing that all my favorite bands are recording their records in LA or anywhere in California and, are from the state. And I'm just like, I always felt this pull to it. And then as I got older and grew along my journey, it just became very apparent that like a major part of the music industry in North America is situated in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Obviously, cities that I also love, like Nashville and New York City, have a pretty big music industry presence. But I think that LA is kind of like, at least for the world that I work in, with Nashville, it's more country, country rock, that sort of thing. With a lot of the acts I work with, it's like LA is where the heartbeat and the pulse is of what we're all doing.
Yeah. I like the paint can.
Yeah. So it's basically like a paint can spills in LA and kind of like makes its way across the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways to the rest of the world. And it's like just something about it, just being in LA, these like sounds I've never heard, these things I've never seen. I'm like, they're happening in front of my face. Like I go to like my friend's studio. It's like, yeah, dude, just come by tonight. And then it's like, I hear this track they're working on and it's like, this could only be coming out of Los Angeles. It's such a fresh fucking sound. Like,
yeah.
And just like the energy there, the vibe there, people are just really pushing creative boundaries. And I think a lot of it too is that there's a lot of people like me that have recognized that like this is, the promised land of like where you want to be. And I feel like similar to me, like a lot of kids, I grew up in Toronto. I didn't ever really feel like I felt in much with the music industry here. In certain regards. In a lot of regards, I definitely, do and have always, and mainly with like the artists in the Toronto music scene and community. But on the actual industry front, I've always kind of felt a bit of a disconnect. And I've always had...
I can relate to that big time, yeah.
Yeah, and I never really understood it. But then I went to LA and it's like, there's literally me here from Minnesota, from Chicago, from Iowa, like, And if they're not managers, they're artists. If they're not, musical artists, they're actors. And it's like everyone that felt the exact same fucking way as I did and has the same firing passion as I do, like, did what they had to do in extreme measures to get the fuck out of their town and move to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I think what I appreciate most about that is just for once being around so many fucking like-minded people, because there's very few moments in my life where I felt that way. Like being on Warped Tour with you in 2016, I was like, holy shit, I'm surrounded by so many like-minded people. It's like all the kids that, again, work so hard to get out of their town to be recognized on a platform like Warped Tour. And it's like, we're here now. We're going to like work hard to like be here because we worked our whole life to be here, And then same thing with the LA. It's like, I worked really hard to be there. I worked my whole life to be there. I had visited there 8 times prior to moving there. And I wish I was there now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not.
You'll find your way back eventually.
Oh, I definitely
and
will.
Probably other cities among.
Yeah, maybe I'll live in Nashville for a bit. And maybe I'll, live in Europe at one point in my life. But I think it's important that you get out there and see other parts of the world and be like, I don't know. There's just something that really pulled me to Los Angeles, and through that, just making friends that are like-minded to me, not in ways like, oh, I want to make friends with this person because I want to like get something from them. It's like meeting for someone like me, someone like Jonathan Rego from Fearless, who signed your band. It's like, that was my first real friend in Los Angeles. And the first person to be like, yo, dude, like, let's just go to Malibu and chill on Sunday. And I was like, I would love fucking nothing more than to like hang out on a beach on a Sunday with someone who's like in a similar place as I am. Like, he moved from the Bay Area to Los Angeles, obviously a lot closer than, the 2,500 to 3,000 miles that separates Toronto to Los Angeles. But, we were kind of in like a similar place, and he had lived in LA prior. So, and, more along in his journey, but just having that companion was like so important to me, and became like one of my actual friends. And like, those are the friendships that I thrived on while being in LA. There's a producer out there, Courtney Ballard. It's like friendship first and business second with these people. Yeah,
you're creating real relationships, not just, again, like you mentioned, a relationship to get something out of someone.
No, fuck no. It's like, yo, we actually became fucking friends, bro. And like, not just because I manage this band and you want your band on this fucking tour. It's like, or, I want my band on your tour. I'm going to try to fake be your friend. Like, I really try to be as self-aware as possible to like never be in those positions. So like, it really means that much more when you can finally work with these people in professional ways. It's like, but understanding that it is friendship first.
Yeah.
And that we're being human about things. And I think that like the dynamic now of like me working with Jonathan Rego and Fearless on your band, it's like a fucking dream come true of a working relationship situation from my perspective. I
think it's a really good fit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, we are so like-minded, like Rego and I, like we like a lot of the same music. We have a lot of the same views, and we're both just very passionate dudes that left our homes to be in a place where we can be closer to the pulse of what's happening. And I think because of that, there's just like no boundary when we communicate, and we can like really move things along in a like, when we're riffing on the phone like every single day, we get really good ideas together, and then we bring them up to you guys, and then you put your spin on them, and then like things happen, and it's like, cool. This is like
exciting times, man.
Probably my favorite working relationship with like band and record label.
Cool.
Honest to God.
Yeah. I mean, I can only speak from the band's experience, but as I'm sure we've mentioned online many times, working with specifically Rego has been a treat. and then working with the entire team at Fearless has been
They're so incredible.
yeah, it's an absolute dream. So let's go down that path a little bit. So before, okay, safe to say, plays 2 final shows, and then announces saying, "Hey, we're going to be taking a break, turn the lights off for a little bit," and we kind of just disappear for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
A little while into that, we start working on some new music. We're not really sure as a band how this is going to come out, if it comes out, anything. We're just there. The focus is making the music. And as we're demoing stuff out and figuring it out, I give you a call and I say, "Hey, Joe." Joe and I met in 2016 on Warped Tour. I'm like, "Hey, Joe, I think you should would it interest you to manage the band?" And I think you hit me back with some kind of real answer where you were like, "Well, I have to I only work with people, or I only work on stuff that I believe in, so I just got to hear the music first, and I got to."
It starts and ends with the music.
Yeah.
I fully for any artist, I believe that is the most important thing. But yeah, sorry.
Which is exactly what I would want to hear, right? I don't want you to...
That's good. I'm glad it didn't deter you.
No. If anything, it then puts the pressure on us to make... It puts the ball in our court, where it's like, okay, if we make something worthwhile, then things will happen. And I think it's good, because if you were to just say, yes, I love Safe to Say, I love... I've been a fan forever. Your band and Safe to Say has played countless shows together. You always made an effort of putting Safe to Say on your band's bills whenever you could. Instead of just jumping at the opportunity, you told us, I got to hear the music first, which is great, because when you have a team, when you have management, when you have a booking agent, when you have a label, it's cool to just have that front. I have a manager. I have a big name booking agent, a big name label, but it means literally
fucking
nothing.
Yeah.
Unless they are actually invested.
Mm-hmm. And I literally will only work on things that I am invested in.
Yeah. And I've known that because
I have turned down stuff and walked away from stuff because I wasn't as emotionally invested. And because of that, I don't want it to affect the other working relationships with every other artist I do manage, where we are on the same page, and I am emotionally invested, and I am invested in my assets and my resources that I can bring to the table. And if I have a uninspiring situation, but it's paying the bills,
no good.
Fuck that.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that resonates. And I knew that going into that conversation, I knew that 100%, that you only work on things if you're going to go all in.
Yeah.
And if you're going to rep a band, if you're going to work with a band, it's because there is a deep drive to do it. So anyways, going forward from there, I think I sent you demos maybe within a month or something like that. And you're kind of yeah, this is cool. You were open to the idea, but by no means were you locking in. You were kind of you were being a friend. You were being a good friend. And that was cool. And then eventually we make a collection of songs. And I believe Brad shoots you a text message and says, "Hey, I would really appreciate if you just took the time to listen to this. If you are interested in working with us, we think you're the guy. We've seen the track record. We know your level of dedication. So if you like this, let's work together."
Yeah.
And you listen to the record, and obviously you recognize right there and then that we are the greatest band in rock and roll history. No. But it spoke to you. And from there, you actually being in LA and building those relationships, specifically with Rego, it's crazy how things happen. That is the weird path that got us all connected.
Yeah.
To now working with Fearless, and we have so many exciting things in the works, which is it's literally a dream. It feels it feels like everything has been worth it.
Yeah. No,
which
for
is
sure.
fantastic. And obviously we go by Locket now, but you said it best. We are back better, stronger than ever. There's no better way that we've came back and started doing what it is that we love to do, which is fantastic. Where was I going with this? I had somewhere going. Okay. So that's kind of explaining Locket's story of how we started working with Fearless and working with you in a very brief paragraph. I work with a lot of bands, and a lot of bands I work with, the level of bands that I generally work with are the bands that have decided that, okay, we are going to pursue this. We're going to take this seriously, and we're going to use all of our efforts to we want to make something happen. And they kind of get to this point where they write good music, they get a good production, but what's the next step? What's the next step? They have some fans, some bands have done some touring, everything from, playing 1 out-of-town shows to Weekend Warriors to actually doing a full DIY tour. But there seems to be this very, very, very common gray area where it's like, okay, I don't know what the next step is. And usually to me, it's like, okay, you need some sort of management that has those relationships, that has a reputation, that genuinely cares about you, that is invested in you, that can hook you up with booking agent, with starting the conversations with the label if the hype is built on your end, kind of thing. Like, that can make things happen. And everyone always asks, okay, like, how do we even approach that? And I don't really have an answer because everything I've seen has been a natural thing. Manager has usually found the artist, and then things happen in that way. Usually if a band's approaching a manager, I find that is less.
I think the only time that's happened was in the situation of you guys and Martin from Cherry Pools. True. Where I have like accepted to work with someone because they have asked me to.
Yeah.
But like never has a band been like, here's our demo, like let us know what you think, like randomly out of the blue. Like I get those call. And you know what, I fucking respect it. I get those emails and it's like I respect the hustle and I listen to it and 10 times out of 10 it's like nothing's pulling me. You talk about the gray space there, and I think a lot of bands most of the time are really good at being a band.
Okay.
And I think what that entails is obviously being able to set up your own band practices, so I don't need to do it on 5 different phone calls.
Having the right gear.
Hey, can you guys practice here? Can you guys, like, if you can get your practices together, if the most important thing, if you can write incredible music and produce something that is completely unique and feels fresh, but yet familiar sort of thing, then I think that's what a band should be focused on doing. And then sometimes it's like the bands have other parts of that figured out too, where it's like they're really good at just being friendly, which helps them with networking, or they have their brand and image honed in and dialed in, and they really know who they are. But I think that there is a level that, from like local band getting out there a little bit, like local, kind of still local, but not really local, to a signed band that now has a professional team working with them. I think the gray area for me is defined by like, if I were a record label, would I sign this? And as a manager, I put myself in the position of someone that's going to be like, yo, this makes sense. We can spend, at least this much money on their record, and we can put this much money into promo. And like, after all is said and done, this looks like and sounds like, of course, but the situation of this band now looks like it can translate to the paper that we have in front of us that says they got to sell X amount of units for us to break even. Yeah. So it's like making the band or artist attractive and basically making it a no-brainer, making it undeniable. Like, hey, whether or not you pick this up, this is going to be a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Is where I like to try to come in and bring that band to.
That's a good way of putting it. And I think that's the right way to do it, because there's so many things within music within navigating the music industry that you can't control. So it is really important to double down on what you can control and make sure that it's the best. Put yourself in the best position. And if you do and things are working, generally good things will happen. And one thing I like to kind of touch on, and I feel like I have a little bit of a different perspective on this, but I think audience is power. Audience is everything. Okay. Yeah. So if you're a band and you're able to bring 200 people out in your hometown, okay?
Yeah.
That's a good thing. That is tangible. That is that is tangible. Yeah, like you can.
That is a splash, as you said earlier. Yeah.
If you are able to post a new song and it gets 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 streams in the first week, that's power.
A splash. Yeah.
If you have a YouTube channel and you are connecting with people, okay, you're just sharing whatever you like. You have gear, you want to share a song you wrote, you want to share anything. You're sharing part of your life and people are consuming it and you're connecting with people. That's no different than making music. That's power.
Yeah.
So I think one thing, and this is my perspective, is like really focusing on making a connection with people and building that audience. Because ultimately, if you have that audience, that's what every band's trying to create. That's what every band is trying to, like everything they're doing is in the end in hopes of building an audience, connecting with people. And that's tangible. That's what the higher ups, the suits, that's what they want to see. That's what they want to build. That's what they want to bring to you. And you see it from time to time again. You see one band that just like is doing something right. And it takes off in a very natural way. And then you see everyone fight over them behind the scenes. Because it's like, that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you, as a manager, something I'm especially now like really trying to be really self-aware about is putting myself in other people's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I get so invested with the bands that I'm like, well, what do you fucking mean we can't get what we want? Like,
yeah.
And then lately I've been practicing like putting myself in everyone else's shoes. And I think that it's important as a manager to be like, if I were the record company, would I sign this band? Mm-hmm. If I were the booking agent, would I sign this band? And yeah, it's like part of that is developing that power, however it may be. I think obviously numbers translate to dollars. So if the artist makes a splash with a big YouTube video and then they get, a major label deal, then like that's their route. Or if they're like filling up rooms and like that's their route. But sometimes it's like even just making it look like, hey, this is still young, but all of the pieces are there. Or like isn't quite the most like, we don't have the numbers in any department really at all, but this is undeniable and it's going to happen whether or not we work with it. And I think a lot of it is just like putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
And being like, what would they think is missing from this equation?
And that, just to touch on that. So, I know I was talking about audience and you said, even if you don't have the numbers, creating that, firing on all cylinders. So you are showing that, you have everything under control, that you've honed in your brand, that you're making great music, that if I go on any of your socials, I know that you look like a serious band. Like if I were to fudge the numbers and make it look like you have, 1 million likes on all your IG posts and everything, it looks normal. I'm not saying doing that. I'm saying if that was the case, that it doesn't look, it doesn't look like that band didn't achieve that. Like they look like they're killing it. Obviously a label and a booking agent, those are resources. So they are there. They look at it and they go, okay, that has potential. That is what they're doing. If with our resources, if we work with them, we can build something special together.
Yeah.
So I think you're totally right about like, obviously focus on building and making it look like, or just,
not even making it look like it, making it be something that
is undeniable.
That is undeniable, that we can bring a professional team on board and it's going to work. Like there is nothing about the equation that you're not going to like, so like record labels will ask like, sometimes they ask like, how old are the band members? That's a question. And how that's answered is going to determine, if you get a deal or what kind of deal it's going to be or how they're feeling about it, and you want them to feel excited. So, it's like,
that's interesting.
So kind of like if someone's really young, you don't, but like in their heart that like, that doesn't matter and is not going to be a factor.
Yeah.
You have to explain that, like artist is 16, 17, 18, sometimes like late 20s, but, like that doesn't matter because they're still ripe for the picking. And like age really doesn't matter. Like, you kind of have to.
It's something to take into consideration, but it's not the end all be all.
So long story short is like, you kind of want to, I know what questions are going to be asked because I'm putting myself in someone else's shoes. And then from like the years of experience of going along the way, I've kind of honed in on it a little more. Like, what are they going to be looking for? And we need to make sure that all the boxes are checked off.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. And I think we've covered most of the bases. So, I want to ask you, are there any cool stories or anything that you've experienced in the last handful of years that if you were to tell yourself when you were 11 years old starting your first band, or 17 years old and doing your first tour or whatever, so anything you've experienced in the last 5 years that if you would have told yourself back in the day that you won't even believe that you, Mr. Joe Buscema, have achieved that. And I'm sure you have a handful. Anything that pops out like as a number one thing that you're like, wow, like.
Fuck, I just had one and now it's gone.
There's a story you told me upstairs. I don't know if you can disclose that. Obviously, I'm sure Warped Tour was a big deal.
Warped Tour was a fucking massive one.
Yeah.
An absolute massive thing for me. Actually, okay, I found it now. So Warped Tour was something that like as a kid I grew up watching. There was a VHS tape much before their 2013 punk rock summer camp movie that they made, documentary style piece. There was another one that was like more DIY punk rock that was filmed between like Warped Tour starting and 99 Warped Tour or something like that. And it had like all my favorite bands from the time, like Bad Religion, Rancid, The Specials. Like it had all those bands and showed them on Warped Tour. And from being such a young age, I was like, this is the coolest fucking thing. This is like, something I want to be part of. And I had played in bands. I got to play like the local date of Warped Tour in Montreal and had managed artists that have like, been on the local date of the tour. And I had managed an artist that I got so far with them that they had got an offer for Warped Tour 2015. And then I got cut out for management. And what kind of fucking sucks is that I literally went out there and like, not to be the guy that like I brought it to the table, but like I kind of fucking brought it to the table.
Yeah. That is part of the game.
Yeah. Like I literally like went to Warped Tour, met the person I needed to meet and followed all the steps to submit and had all the conversations and then spoke to Kevin Lyman on the phone for 45 fucking minutes, actually in Ottawa while I was on tour with said artist. And then, we get the offer and I got fired a week after that, So then literally the next year in 2016, getting to be on the tour. And
that artist was there, right?
That artist was there. But it was, no, it's fine. I don't fucking care. Okay. But, out of respect, I won't say who, but like, fuck it, but, basically getting to be there on that tour.
Yeah.
And being so close to it so many times in the past, I was like, holy fuck, I'm here and I'm going to make it count. Like,
and you did, yeah.
Every day I woke up at 7 a.m. like, I'm ready to live the best day of my life.
Yeah. Get that tent down, get that best tent spot.
Yeah. I would literally, so I was like, shortly, I'll just say like, I would wake up at 7 a.m. I would get the merch tent spot for like Pacific. And then after that I would run around and do all the other production stuff. So I would like, half pop the tent, leave all the boxes underneath. Then Greg and Luke would wake up a little after me and start setting it up. Because they're like the retail guys, they displayed everything super fucking nice, way better than I could have. And then I would run around and do all the production stuff that a TM does, like where everything is. Because chances are it's like, this amphitheater that you got to navigate. Like, okay, I got to go get the ice over here, the beer in the water over here. Production office is over here, catering's over here. And then like a lot of the days I wouldn't get to eat food until like 3 in the afternoon. Some days I got to get breakfast and that was obviously great. Most days I got to get lunch and dinner. Those were awesome.
Yeah.
But it was cool. And then, so that was kind of like the dynamic. And I would work from like, honest to God, 7 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night.
And sometimes later, depending on if we needed to bust the driver's balls.
Yeah. And then sometimes, throughout the night, if, like, hey,
we need to get there on time.
Yeah. Like, I'll never forget. Oh man. Can we just talk about Syracuse like super quick?
Sure. Which one? Is that when we showed up at like?
Yes.
Fucking 10. Yeah, like Pacific played at 11:10 or 11 or something like that.
Yeah, they went on stage at like I want to say 11:30, and we got there at 11:10.
Everyone, every single person. Okay, so we showed up late and we warned the driver that like
you have to sleep during the day and then drive at night. The problem was the driver was the dad of somebody that was in our bus, and they kind of treated Warped Tour as their family vacation. And which like, I just want to say, like, me being the artist first person that I am, I had a hard time with that the entire tour, as you know.
And it was it was a little rocky leading up to that. Like we were the last band pulling in, but it wasn't like detrimental. But anyways, the way Warped Tour works is you show up and that day you figure out when you play, and it can be as early as 11:30 and as late as 8 p.m.
And real quick, Lake Pacific requested an early slot that day.
Yeah?
We literally said, if we can play before 1 p.m., that would be fucking incredible.
Okay, so
the earlier the better. I literally said those words. The earlier the better.
We show up at 11:10. Obviously, everyone's stressed out. It was like D-Day, man. We were all lined up, ready to go to war. And yeah, the second we got into the parking lot, last people there. And then, we open up the trailer, and everyone, in Safe to Say, and in Like Pacific, everyone involved.
Whoever has hands, go. Let's fucking go.
Geared to the stage, Like Pacific, no sound check, go, play.
I literally saw my friend Andrew Bizanti. He was carrying this like dolly he stole from the Home Depot at the start of the tour.
Yeah.
And those like big orange ones with like 3 sets of
the big boys.
Wheels and shit. Yeah, that's like, like they put like drywall sheets on there. I'm like, you want to make $10 right fucking now? Bring that over here. And so we were just going, and then pulled
it off.
Yeah, we pulled it off, but I wake up and I'm like it's 7 a.m. and I'm like, why is the bus still moving? Like, why aren't we parked? And then we're supposed to be in Syracuse, and I look at, I pull up my GPS, like, see where we are, and I'm like, we're in fucking Virginia.
Yeah, that was a stressful morning.
Yeah. So, and like, dude, but like, that is just tour though. Like, things happen.
The really tough part about that whole thing is like Kevin Lyman, the guy that basically what's
founded Warped Tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's his official title.
Founder. He's probably the CEO on paper. I'm not too sure.
The
how
guy
his
that
shit's
makes
set up, but
everything happen. The overseer. Like, he is so in the know. He's on the ground there. He knows exactly what's going on. And if like,
dude,
you basically don't want
to
piss that guy off, and it's like showing up 20 minutes before set time.
Not a good look. Not a good look at all. And because like Kevin Lyman is a very music first person.
Yeah.
And bullshit attitude last. And like, you show up late, that kind of gives the impression that we're giving a bullshit attitude, but like the reality is like, dude, this is our dream come true to fucking be here.
We want,
like myself and the band like that was their first Warped Tour. It was your first Warped Tour. And it was all of our first Warped Tours, It's like, we're all so fucking happy to be there, and we show up late, and it's like, goddamn, like, this is sadly the complete opposite of the impression that we want to give.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't think anything too bad happened.
No, we literally made it happen. I wasn't able to help the band on stage at all. I was like, I'm going to set up merch today. And the display looked like shit.
Oh my goodness.
But
that's right. That's even on top.
I literally just hung all the shirts on a fucking, what the hell?
Clothes hang or just a rope
the
or a
stretchy
line?
things. What the fuck are they called?
Yeah.
Why is it escaping me?
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah. you latch it to here, and then you pull it, and it stretches, and you
there's
latch
a lot
it again.
of tension.
Yeah, I forget. I don't know how I'm spacing on this word, but I just lined up all the shirts on one of those. They were like blowing around. I'm like, guys, I did my best, but like
I didn't even think of that.
I was able to get the merch set up because I had not done that at all on the whole tour, and I had to that day. Yeah. So I was able to get it all set up to like a kind of presentable point to the band was able to get off stage and do their signing like right in time. Yeah. And then we were able to start selling merch. So I'm like, at least they got to play and we had merch set up, and fuck.
I didn't even think about that, but that is such an equally important part. Like when the band is done playing, that is the peak time that you sell the most amount of merch.
Needs to be set up. So I was doing that while they were playing, and typically I was on stage if something was, like I'd be looking at the drummer if like
cymbal falls,
chord comes unplugged from a bass player, guitar player. Jordan at the end of the set would go into the crowd. He would, drop the microphone, take the microphone stand, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I would kind of like stage hand the situation. That day I was just like setting everything up, and I had never done that, but like I did my best, and yeah, we fucking, that's the power of rock and roll, man.
Hell yeah. Okay. Well, I think that is a perfect way to wrap this whole thing up. This has been a delightful conversation.
Do you actually think so?
Yeah. No, like
cool.
No doubt. I think
so long as you think so.
I think I'm gonna listen back to this and enjoy it. And
me too.
Yeah, dude, it's funny. We could hit record tomorrow and have a completely different conversation and have it still be as fun. I love. It's really fun talking to you, man.
Always.
Right. Thank you to anyone that's actually made it to the end of this podcast and listened all the way through. Thank you to Joe Buscema for being here. And
thank you.
I hope you took something away from this. And that's about it. Thank you very much for listening, watching, and see ya.
Create more.
Create more.